2, 1. Good evening. It's Patriots Central Radio. It's Brian Phillips here on Wednesday night. A little late start, some technical difficulties. It's been a fun evening, but we are here with Aaron Freeman from Patriots Central. Patriots Central. Well, tonight he's on Patriots Central from Falcons Central. Aaron, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Glad to be doing this, crossing the streams with the two Pro Football Central shows.
That's right, man. Give us the rundown as far as this week. We'll go into the matchup a little bit. It'll be a little shorter episode tonight, but just touch on a couple things that you're looking for from the Falcons offense this weekend on Sunday night.
Well, I'm hoping this is sort of the game that the Falcons need to sort of get their offense jump-started a little bit, because they've been a little bit stagnant these last couple of weeks. They need to get back to what they were so good at last year and what we saw in the last time they played a primetime game against the Packers, which was, their explosive potential. And I think, what they need to do is they need to be able to run the football, get their running backs involved, get Julio Jones involved. That's been a bit of a talking point this week. And just find ways to generate those big chunk yardage against a lackluster Patriots defense, some might say, to try to get this offense back on track and restore some confidence from this fan base and certainly within the team itself.
Yeah, so coming off that loss, I know your timeline was pretty busy this last weekend on Twitter. A lot of blame to go around as far as the loss to Miami, and then obviously the disappointment with Buffalo at home, both home losses. I'm seeing a lot of anti-Steve Sarkisian. What's the deal there moving forward? I mean, what's the chatter down in Atlanta as far as the play calling goes?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people are starting to, there was a lot of confidence going into the season, throughout the offseason, that the offense wouldn't skip a beat under Steve Sarkisian. Part of that was fueled by sort of how the last game of 2016 ended for the Falcons, and a lot of bitter feelings and resentment over some of the play calling with Kyle Shanahan there. And I think what's happened is it's a little bit of a wake-up call these past 2 weeks. It was a little bit of a dip against the Buffalo game. I think people sort of saw that as a sort of a one-game setback a little bit, and the expectation was they would respond this week against Miami and get back to the high-flying, high-scoring offense. That wasn't the case, and now people are sort of pointing the finger at Steve Sarkisian. Falcon fans have been down this road before. This is the exact same thing they went through in 2015 when Kyle Shanahan first joined the team as the offensive coordinator. The year prior to that, under Dirk Cutter, who's now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach, they were, one of the top scoring offenses in the league then. And then there was a dip under Shanahan in his first year. And back then there was a lot of people calling for Shanahan to be fired. We haven't quite reached that sort of thing yet, but another sort of down performance this week in a sort of a big marquee matchup. I do think you'll start to hear more talk of, maybe possibly moving on from the offensive coordinator, at least among fans, that tend to have the more knee-jerk reactions out there.
So is it more of is it a conservative type of deal and not really letting everybody off the leash a little bit? Now, you guys are 5 games into the year, or what are the actual problems people are having? Is it late game play calling? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's a lot of factors. I mean, if you were going to boil it down to one factor, at least from my observation, in the Packer and Lions game, they ran a lot of play action in those games, and they were able to get some shot plays and score some points in that game partially because of the play action passing. And then every other game, they've been sort of dialing back the play action a little bit, and it's led to sort of low scoring affairs. And so I think there's a lot of sentiment that, without the play action passing game, Sarkisian hasn't really shown an ability to dial up those explosive plays that you really do need at this point in the league to be a high scoring offense. And it's a little bit conservative in the sense of their passing concepts, not necessarily in like they're running the ball a ton or anything like that. But yeah, it's a little different from what they were doing last year under Kyle Shanahan. I think some of that is owed to Sarkisian's lack of play calling experience, particularly at the NFL level, where he's never really been an NFL coach outside of 1 year as an assistant 13 years ago. So it is one of those things where I feel like there is a bit of a learning curve, and we're at the beginning of that curve, and eventually, hopefully, the hope is that he will start to pick things up. But there's certainly the belief that there is a talent level in Atlanta that is second to none, and there's really no sort of excuse, and the leash is pretty short for the offense not being able to put up a ton of points.
Yeah, we obviously got a good dose of it for quite a bit back in February. Got to see a little bit of everybody. If going into Sunday's game, obviously, we've touched a little bit on the Patriots' struggles on the defensive side of the ball, and really with both teams kind of trying to get their, every team in the NFL right at this point is starting to get their, who they are is what we're starting to see. We're starting to see identities come out, but still, there's a lot of up and downs from week to week. If the Patriots are looking to make a big improvement on defense, what are they looking to attack then? I guess what I'm asking is where should the Patriots be looking for vulnerabilities in the Falcons' offense? Trying to find some way to try to slow down the attack. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the common theme with the Falcons' offense has been the teams that have been able to slow them down, going back to even last year as well, and as this year as well, with the Bears and the Dolphins and the Bills, have been teams that have good fronts. And if you can control the line of scrimmage to a certain extent, if you can slow down their running game, if you can put pressure on Matt Ryan, that tends to derail their offense a little bit more. That was something that was a commonality last year. The Patriots did that effectively in the Super Bowl with getting after Matt. I think they had 5 sacks in that game. Didn't necessarily slow down Devontae Freeman all that much, but if you can get pressure on Matt Ryan and sort of hit him a bunch, it can sort of take him off his game. It's been known to do that from time to time. And that's really, if you're going to exploit this Falcons offense, that's really the best way of doing it. If you can't get pressure, if you can't stop the run, it's generally going to be pretty hard for you to slow down this Falcons offense.
Oh, great, because the Patriots have been so stellar in that department this year.
I've heard that.
Rough. It's been rough here, man. With Trey Flowers doing it all kind of by his lonesome. The sack numbers are kind of clean-up sacks for guys like Kyle Van Noy and whatnot. But, yeah, it's been pretty brutal. But, I'm looking at this running attack. We touched a little bit on it yesterday on Falcon Central. This Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman duo, you and I both agree it's the best in the league. And everybody, the numbers back it up. You guys are third in the league in yards per carry at 4.8 as a team. And then, of course, you're the most efficient run game in the NFL. The Football Outsiders DVOA has you guys ranked the most efficient running team in football. I guess when you look at the play action that you were talking about, if they're able to establish that, moving forward, I guess where I'm going with this is, do you see Austin Hooper and Taylor Gabriel kind of making more of a contribution in the play action game, knowing that Bill Belichick is definitely going to be scheming Julio out of the game as much as possible? I'm kind of seeing a little more Austin Hooper play action, that kind of deal.
Yeah, I think that's something that they do want to exploit. We got to see Hooper make a couple of plays going one-on-one against Patrick Chung in the Super Bowl. I think that's something that the Falcons feel relatively confident that they can try to exploit, just because Hooper's a little bit further in his development now than where he was then. I think they'll try to also get Taylor Gabriel as well involved. And, they had a guy they brought up from the practice squad last week in Marvin Hall. He's another sort of fast guy that's sort of fitting in the same role that Aldrick Robinson filled for the team, and he got a 40-yard touchdown against Miami, and I think they might try to use him at times as well. Last week he was sort of alternating snaps with Julio Jones because Julio's been dealing with a back and hip injury, and so they just want to keep him as fresh as possible. And so basically it's like he'll go out there, he'll catch a pass, and then he'll take a down or two off, and that creates opportunities for guys like Gabriel and Marvin Hall as well. to exploit the deep ball. And I think Hooper will also be in the mix there as well.
So with this high efficiency run game that they're able to run everything kind of off, you guys, you alluded to it a little bit earlier. Teams with a stout front seven that are able to control that run game and get pressure on Matt Ryan. That's how you slow down this offense. But I'm looking at some of these interior defensive linemen you guys have faced this year. We're talking about guys that are playing at all pro levels. When you're looking at Akeem Hicks in Chicago, Mike Daniels in Green Bay, obviously Ndamukong Suh last week. Kyle Williams has always been a guy that's been a pain in the ass for Patriots fans up here twice a year. How were they able to stay so productive in that run game with some of this high quality interior defensive line talent that they've been facing? Is it a lot of stretch runs and outside play, or what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, that's their bread and butter. They're an outside zone blocking team. That's their scheme. They love the stretch play. Devontae Freeman's extremely good at that. Tevin Coleman's not quite to the same proficiency in the zone run game. They try to mix in a little bit of gap stuff with him, but when he has the speed that when he can get to the outside, we can get to that corner and outrun the pursuit. He can hit the afterburners and get big chunk yardages. So I think a lot of it has to do with their blocking scheme and sort of getting those big guys in the middle running laterally as opposed to attacking upfield where it's more advantageous for the D tackle. But with their lateral sort of zone blocking scheme, it's more advantageous for the offensive lineman because the Falcons have really good athletes at that position, particularly with Alex Mack getting onto the second level and just basically taking out linebackers. But I do know the Patriots linebackers with guys like Roberts and Hightower. Those guys are particularly hard to block just because of the physical element that they bring to the table. But I think the Falcons will try to counter that, with their superior speed and trying to get those guys to run as opposed to coming downhill, which is where they're at their best.
Yeah, you're talking a guy in Alex Mack, four-time Pro Bowler, two-time All-Pro. Keeping those linebackers clean is going to be a tall task for Alan Branch, Malcolm Brown, and company. It's going to be a tall order for them. All right, moving on to the defensive side of the ball. I've got to know, as a Falcons guy, what are you most worried about when you look at your defensive unit? Where are the holes, and who needs to have a good week of practice pretty much this week for the Falcons?
I mean, the defense has made significant strides from last year, particularly with their pass rush. We haven't quite seen it where we wanted to be the last couple of games, and partially that might be owed to the injury to Vic Beasley. But the issue with the Falcons defense and where I worry about it is they've really struggled to sort of take other teams off their game plan, where they've played well, they've made some plays, but it's one of those things where if teams like the Bears and the Dolphins and the Bills, they wanted to run the football, and they were pretty successful in running the football. And you had teams like the Lions and the Packers, and they wanted to throw the football, and they had decent success throwing the football against the Falcons. So the issue that the Falcons face is the Patriots probably want to play a little bit of their sort of ball control offense, get the ball in the hand of some of their playmakers like Gronk and James White. And the Falcons haven't really been that good at stopping teams from doing what they want to do offensively. And so that's my main concern, because right now they don't really have guys that are playing above and beyond outside of a couple of guys here or there sprinkled or there that really can sort of take teams out of their game plan and really put the pressure on them to sort of play the Falcon style as opposed to playing their own style. So,
I'm looking around. I see a guy like Duke Riley. What's been the deal with him and his progression? Has he been? I've seen kind of up and down reports on him. Is he just a little green, kind of a little wet behind the ears, a little young? Does he show promise?
Yeah. Duke Riley's been a part-time sort of starter. He plays in the base defense, but he's often getting pulled off the field when they go to nickel. And as you know, they play nickel about 65% of the time. So he's been struggling with some missed tackles, some poor run fits with the gap scheme, but that's really been sort of an issue for all their linebackers as well. But it's been a little bit more glaring with Riley just because of the sheer number of missed tackles he's had so far in his young NFL career.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, I get a little worried looking at knowing the success a guy like Grady Jarrett had in the Super Bowl against the same old line. You guys are seeing the same dudes in the trenches there, and then you added Don Terry Poe and Tack, which obviously has you guys excited down there, making some plays. It's gonna be a tall order for this struggling Patriots offensive line. Let's get a final score prediction and give me kind of how you think the game flow is going to go. Obviously, it's tough to say this early in the week, especially without final injury reports and everything. But how's it going to go, and what's the final?
I think I'm going to take the homer pick. I'm going to go with the Falcons winning in a close one. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 31-30. At this point, I sort of expect, because the Patriots are playing at home, they'll get off to a reasonably comfortable start, but then I think the Falcons will sort of pull it close, and then, then it will be anybody's ball game in the second half, and then I think, you'll have situations where turnovers will probably make a big difference. Whoever can get those explosive plays can sort of be the team that pulls ahead in the end, and then probably, it'll be either Matt Bryant or Steven Gostkowski becoming the hero and hitting the game-winning kick to either win it or lose it or something like that. But I think it's going to be Matt Bryant, and I'm thinking 31-30.
Yeah, we're pretty spot on. I'm seeing kind of a slower start. Two teams kind of feeling each other out a little bit, and then starting in the second quarter, it really gets going with the scoring. I think both teams will keep it pretty clean. Both teams are going to be pretty hyped for this game, but they know, a lot is on the line. Bragging rights, from a bragging rights perspective, I know. Obviously, we haven't touched. It's too easy to touch on the Super Bowl rematch aspect of this whole thing and everything. Obviously, both coaches will emphasize and have emphasized that everything is in the past. This is a new year. But the players will be excited. There'll be an extra layer of excitement for this game, and I think we're going to see some serious quality football that we really haven't seen on too many of the primetime games, particularly, obviously, the Thursday games. But it really hasn't been a big dose of good quality football and primetime matchups this year, but I think we're in for a real treat. I think game-winning field goal, 32-29 for the Patriots, so a couple homer picks here. A couple of old crafty, wily vets settling this thing as time expires. But, it's going to be an awesome matchup, man. We're excited up here for it, and I know you guys got to be pretty jacked.
Yes, this is a game that many people have been looking forward to. Several players have already admitted this week that this is a game that they've been dying to play for several months now. And certainly the fans have been looking, circled this game when the schedule came out. So, yeah, I certainly think the energy will be up, certainly from the Falcons side of the equation, and hopefully they can take advantage of it.
Certainly. And, before I let you go, Aaron, your co-host and I were chatting a little bit on Twitter today. I want to get a number from you on Julio Jones. Give me some Julio Jones stats this weekend. I want yardage, catches, and touchdowns. Because I have this gut feeling that he's going to come up empty, and you guys will get. I'm saying you're going to get 29 points somehow, but I'm saying it's going to come in other avenues. He's saying a big night for Julio. What do you think?
A big night for Julio is a relative term, because
that's true.
We've seen some 300. I would probably say somewhere around 7 or 8 catches, and I think he'll probably get over 100 yards, probably get his first touchdown of the season. But I don't expect him to go off and have one of those monster games where he goes for 200, which we've seen him do in multiple touchdowns. But I certainly think, if you own Julio Jones in fantasy, you will certainly be happy with his production come Sunday night.
Certainly, you guys heard it first. A couple of game time expiring field goal predictions here. One by Aaron, one by myself, Brian Phillips, your host tonight on Patriots Central Radio. Aaron, give us a plug. Where can we find you? What are you working on? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter if they want to talk football, they want to talk chicken wings or anything.
Ooh,
I'll talk with them about that. My Twitter handle is FalcFans. Obviously, I'm on Falcon Central Radio. You guys know you can find that at ProFootballCentral.com, as well as the show's Twitter handle is at Falcons PFC. My co-host that Brian referred to is Scott Karasik. He is at Karasik S, and that's where you guys can all find me at.
well, cool, man. And you guys know you can always find me at bphillips_pp on Twitter. That's PP for Pat's Pulpit, SB Nation. Got some stuff kind of touching on what we talked about a little bit here tonight, getting a little more in depth on the sexiness of this matchup and how it can cloud people's vision of how this game is going to be won in the trenches. We touched a little bit on it tonight with Aaron, but check that out. I'll hit tomorrow. But yeah, that's all we got tonight. Thanks for tuning in to Patriots Central Radio.